Transition Grace economic powerhouse. In other words, I put this in another context. How Nigeria's energy transition fit in indeed a new paradigm called the green economy. I would like to ask this audience one pertinent and all-important question. How many of you belong to the network of climate deniers as like President Donald Trump of the United States? How many of you? No. Put your hands together for yourself. Put your hands together. That means climate change is not fallacious. Climate change is real. It has become a monster. A monster is hydra-headed. I came in here yesterday. We witnessed flooding. Flooding has ravaged the Niger Delta communities. The sea level rise from Lagos to Calabar, the coastal areas, led to this sea level rise, and unimaginable. The southeast is being ravaged by erosion menace. Our northern brothers, the northern hemisphere, northern part of Nigeria, by drought and desertification. To the extent that this drought and desertification is coming down southwards at a rate of 0.7 kilometers per annum. It has reached Ibadan. It has reached Enugu. So you can see, this is what informed the concern of development thinkers ab initio, think that development is just growth, GDP plus. That was in the likes of the Manchester economics, Arthur Lewis, Harold Doma. Think that, I remember as a conventional economist, when you deny yourself of immediate consumption, you save. Therefore, savings, you use it to invest. An investment, when the growth is GDP 7 point or 6 points, is development. That was our thinking then. Even in the 60s, the United Nations saw development as GDP 6% plus. I mean, when you saw development, GDP growing, that rate, you see dualism in an economy. The house and have not. Mildal and Nosk, their massive irrigation drama, their publication in 1978 talked about the massive poverty in China, India, even the global south, Nigeria inclusive. One thing that tickles my fancy as a development economist when Prof Okowa used to teach us in those days and Dr. Papa and University of Port Harcourt, the dualism in the economy, they begin to relate what to call the Morocco and the Victoria land. A dualism, and the have and they have not. Thank God the Morocco is now a destination. But that shows that is the thinking. Then, so people begin to look at this dualism. How do we cohere? How do we bridge this dualism? So the thinking talk about even distribution of it. So economics has gone beyond growth plus tool, even distribution, to bring in the social effects such as education, health, environment, water sanitation, and all that, all intertwined in a matrix. So economists begin to look at development from the prism of a political economy. Look at it from economics, politics, sociology, anthropology, natural science, all intertwined in a matrix called political economy. That's why you can see political economy of development planning by Prof Okowa. The thinking, so those thinking. So, but even at that, there's still a problem. Our poverty didn't stop. So it took in the 80s by the World Conservation Society. So development cannot be looked at from the prism of economics and the social alone. We need to bring the third tripod, which is the environment. So give credit to the World Conservation Society of 1980 that brought the issue of conservation in development planning. And that is how we met sustainable development. So sustainable development is looked at from the prism of the three tripods of the people, addressing the social objective, prosperity, addressing the economic objective, and the planet, addressing the what? The biological diversity, so to speak. If they didn't stop at that, this concern led to the Club of Rome in 1972, when they say years of faith, there's a limit of growth. They had a publication of growth. And when they saw there's need for us to have an understanding from the market economy or the conventional economy, talking about the free trade, to begin to look at development that will be inclusive, development that will be equitable, the call for global governance. It was in that understanding of that Club of Rome that sparked up the climate discussion. The climate discussion, as far back in 1979, but is that the government needs to commit. Government must be proactive in the process of addressing this monster called climate change. And that led to, in 1994, the World's Convention, UNFCCC, was created under United Framework Convention on Climate Change. And March, it came into force. The idea is this: we need to come together to cohere to address this monster. And this monster can be addressed by mitigation measures, adaptation measures. Mark you, when you have a monster here, adaptation is coping method. There's nothing you can do. It is staring on us. The mitigation mission is to make sure you reduce the emission. Because the essence of this climate change is that when there's a persistent rise in temperature, persistent and consistent over 800 for years, the footprint of this change is the rise in temperature. The last speaker talked about the heat wave. So the heat wave, if you go beyond 2 degrees Celsius, it's not for human consumption. So there must be collaboration. So you can see the new lexicon in our language now, from shareholding or the profit maximizing capitalist tendencies of the market, forces the market, to shareholding, to stakeholding. So it's now stakeholder values. In other words, so the Sustainable Development Goals now has a vehicle to drive this development thinking, and that is the green economy. The green economy is an economy that promotes low carbon, resources efficient trajectory. Any green economy that seeks to address mitigation measures and adaptation measures is the new paradigm. And there are 3 sectors. There are sectors that involve 3 critical sectors involve the green economy. The first sector is agriculture. The agriculture is not the mechanized agriculture. The agriculture is the smart, climate smart agriculture. Like in my house, I have a small plot of land. I plant under bags 500 tubers of yam. So by December this year, this next month, I'll be harvesting not less than 900 tubers of yam. That's excluding cucumber and lettuce and all that. No one plot conservation. I don't need to deforest. So that can even feed half of my community. 1,000 tubers of yam. That's climate smart agriculture. Most of us are involved in greenhouse farming and all that. These are smart ways. The smart ways of doing this. And the green economy tells us the chief driver of the green economy is circular economic thinking. So you don't need to waste. You create wealth. So under the conventional economy, the economy is the way it is. You do input and output, you dump. But in the green economic thinking, driven by the chief driver of the circular economy, reuse, reduce, replace, and all that. That is the destination for net zero. So I see it, climate smart agriculture. The second factor, which I'm going to address today within the context of energy transition, is energy. Energy, I have 2 sources of energy. We have the non-renewables and renewable. The non-renewables, are not replaceable. In the likes of wood, coal, oil and gas, they are not replaceable. But let me tell you about the energy transition. Times where we have straw. From straw, we move to wood. from wood, we moved to coal. From coal, we went to oil and gas. And now the new destination is renewables. That's irreplaceable, carbon-free. But let me also tell you that non-renewable source, there's no problem with that. But what we need to do, that we should be strategic in the exploration and exploitation of oil, the black gold. If you Google, the lifespan of American oil is around 125 years or thereabout. The lifespan of the Canadian oil, around 130 or thereabout. The lifespan of Nigerian oil is around 45 or 50 years. Why? Because we're not strategic. You know why those people? They were strategic, they have reserves, and develop the alternatives. That's part of the energy transition. You don't dispense oil. But because it's a non-renewable resource, you need to be strategic in reserving it so as to the future by 2060. By 2060, I'll be like Moses. I'll be 120, I'll be more than my age, one of the bits. But the God so kind. But for those of us here, we see that black gold if a strategic in the exploration and exploitation of it. Such is the renewable energy, which is in abundance. Okay? And solar, wind, biomass, hydro, they're in abundance. But the third sector that drives the green economy is the infrastructure. Ecological infrastructure. E-mobility. We're looking about powering railways and all that through solar, e-mobility. Transport is very critical to drive this net zero. Whether it's net zero or decarbonization, it's a matter of semantics or low carbon resources. It's we're traveling towards carbon neutrality. That takes me to the issue. How do we ensure there's the potency in the green economy? That's why from that COP24, the COP1 that took place in 1995 to COP30 will be going in Brazil next month, 30 years. What international organizations, bodies, government and all that have been collaborating to make sure that emissions does not go beyond 2 degrees Celsius. But there are laws put in place that will drive the process, that drive the green economy or blue economy. Blue economy is about it, the water bodies, the oceans and seas. Okay? And so, but I'm told to speak about the green side and the green economy. So now there are 3 important laws which I would like to leave us here with. In the process of one is the UNFCCC law of 1994. That's get potency for mitigation and action projects that will enable to drive a green economy. Then the second one is the Kyoto Protocol. And that's where my own thesis rests on. Kyoto Protocol is the worst argument that, look, we are the worst emitters are the global north. That's Annex 1 country. Whereas the non-Annex 1, that the global south, are the much more vulnerable. So how do we compensate them? Okay? So it was in that compensation variation and variable and all that led to 3 mechanisms under the Kyoto Protocol. But what I'm going to discuss is the clean development mechanism under the Kyoto Protocol. That CDM talks of Annex 1 country or industrial country investing in project that has emission reduction potentialities in non-Annex 1 country. That's developing countries. That's why you saw China even thought that CDM is China development mechanism. That's China took the moment. India, Brazil, and all that. Even South Africa follows suit. But however, there was a shortfall. In fact, the potency of renewable energy today is that by 2005, clean energy become a law. That's why everybody is talking about renewable energy because there's a law. The international are backing it. So you cannot just drive a green economy if there's no law in the place. So that blocked the process. But however, there was a snag in the Kyoto Protocol. The Kyoto Protocol gave condition for industrial countries to invest in projects in less developed countries or developing countries. So that led to a series of conferences. And I must tell you, by 2009, that was at Copenhagen that, green economy was mentioned as the driver of this development thinking, this new sustainable development. So by 2015, there was a landmark Paris Agreement that actually situated countries on this emission reduction processes. And the countries said, okay, you do give me an unconditional commitment how to reduce emission without external interference. Country-specific peculiarities and all that on how to reduce. And the second aspect is the conditional commitment. Guess what? This conditional commitment will be a function of three scenarios. One, capacity building, the complete transfer, and outright funding. So countries now design the document, the nationally determined contribution NDC, and we just submitted to UNFCCC. And it is in that context that by 2015, you see, 2015, there was the SDG, was now see development in a scenario form. Scenario. You know, on that scenario plan, you don't just live, don't hold, you know, nothing is slow to constant. You know, in the conventional economy, where I'm coming from, say all things being equal. On that scenario plan, we have 17 SDGs. In that 17 SDGs, there are 266 indicators that will mark those 17 SDGs. So you can see, but one thing about in that SDG is that it calls for global partnership and peaceful coexistence. Adding to the other two, we now have 5 P's under SDG: people, prosperity, partnership, partnership, and peaceful coexistence. So you can see the thinking, and of course, by 2012, green economy was termed an authority in this development thinking, in this drive, in this wheel of new paradigm. It took the same role in 2012 that the green economy was given a stand. And I remember vividly that when we started by what's called natural capital declaration, where you now bring the private sector investment, the banking institution, who will do this investment within the green economy. And natural capital, bankers, CBN banking, private sector, commercial banks and all that, we are giving the opportunity to say, please, as much as possible, you need to have your environmental integrity, have their sustainability plan in this process. That was why sustainable banking principle came in under this new thinking. So you can see it's a new win for us. It's a win-win for us. So within the context of energy, Nigeria has energy transition plan. In that plan, we focus on 4 areas. The first is on clean cooking stove. The clean cooking stove, we'll be looking forward to having what's called clean cooking stove across the length and breadth of Nigeria. Let me take the context of the Niger Delta. You would agree with me that we have lost the mangrove because of what? Climate change. We have lost the mangrove. Our women can no longer go and egg firewoods to cook. So what do? You need to give them clean cooking stove opportunity as an alternative. And number 2 is, apart from that, you can power LPG. That's within the household. I'm using Niger Delta as a case study. You can power LPG. Fine, you can do export on SPG. But our priority on to achieve an energy access and security, and to be a powerhouse for Nigeria is that what starts off from prioritizing and power LGs within our household before you export. By so doing, you are making a statement of clean energy, reducing this soot phenomenon. This soot we are looking at and all that. When you power household in Niger Delta here with the LPG, there's nothing. This soot will be a thing of the past. And that's go to the illegal refinery. The illegal refinery, occasioned by this, what was seen in Niger Delta, what stops you from creating a modular refinery? Bringing this to our brothers, all these our brothers, and putting them, re-educating them. Look, we have done this because you are creating the soot phenomenon. You would need to come back. Treat it to give you a decarbonized technology that will enable you to undertake, modular refineries and all that. That's for cooking. The second aspect in the focus on Nigeria energy transition is on transports. I know what is happening. Dangote, what they're doing, right? The Dangote has just brought in CNG, compressed natural gas, CNG buses over 10,000 of them. The Lagos state government is doing this thing, Borno state government, so many states are doing it. You know, the 2023 REEEAA Act has provided the subnational opportunity to go into green, to develop, generate power and all that. And I can bet you that when they seize the moment, moving away from decarbonizing, using a CNG, you are making a statement of emission reduction, promoting low carbon, resource efficient, the green economy. So a whole lot has to be on transport. E-mobility is all there. Electric vehicles, one of my colleagues will be discussing on electric vehicles today. It's making a statement of low carbon, resource efficient trajectory, that's green economy. The third aspect of Nigeria's energy transition plan is when I talk about industry. And that's what I'm talking about the youth now, the youth board. I'm excited about the audience I'm having. The youth board is here. Because if you are the destination, if you are the future, the net zero is for you. And we need to go co-creation. A whole lot, let me tell you. In Rwanda is becoming a destination today because the government was intentional about the economic policy. Climate governance was at the primacy, its primacy. And you see, everything in Rwanda is about innovation and is community-driven. Stakeholders. You know what? I look for all the youths now. Think through answer, but I was excited when I got under the countdown yesterday. I was at the Eco Village. I saw a whole lot of enough that's going on. I said, what's going on? Green technology. That is the destination. You are making a statement of contribute to low carbon, resource efficient green economy. The green economy belongs to you. It doesn't belong to honest, it belongs to me, but it's for you. So I look forward to co-creating. Co-creation is the engine. I'm excited that banks are beginning to show some level of understanding about co-creation. Putting heads together. Look, a low ranger will not go far. But when you collaborate, you go far. So green technology is my ambition by 2060, Nigeria's net zero. I look forward to so many young men and women having ideas, you know. And lastly, I'm talking about the oil and gas. Like I said, the gas was brought in as a traditional fuel to power our future, energy for sustainable future at COP21 in Glasgow in 2021. Yeah. Nigeria cannot fall the fact that we're a gas economy. Like I was sharing, the process of this, you need to have a decarbonized technology. What decarbonization? Plugins, removing the pollution at source. That make it clean. Okay? And I was sharing them that, look, both of you in the oil and gas industry, you're saying that we don't have it on decarbonized carbon capture sequestration. No. Nigeria has an act, Climate Change Act, and Section 5 of that act, yours sincerely was part and parcel of that act, made provision the carbon budget, and we have designed a carbon implementation process. Okay? There are three scenarios if you're involved in the carbon market, even if the compliance market. There is voluntary and compliance. There are three scenarios. One is technology transfer. Two is capacity building. And third is outright funding. Under a scenario of technology transfer, you can involve into the oil and gas. I speak to you now. You can involve in a carbon market. Carbon market is an incentive for those of them who is involved in mitigation. A project that will reduce the emission gives you an incentive. It's money. It's a credit. So that's why I challenge the oil and gas. Please don't sit down like Soil Institute to say, no, it's not meant for us. We don't need the destination for this year's technology. No. You engage a few of us to say, look, we'll put out a process. I want to mention O&O. And O&O has started a process of carbon markets. O&O has been made out while we're trying to have that process for them. So why? Don't sit down like Institute, please, like Soil. Move. That's the destination, you know. So, gentlemen and ladies, as I begin to wind up now, the solution-driven narrative that's, as a stakeholder, for us to be an economic powerhouse under Nigeria's energy transition, given these four focus I've said, there must be a convergence, a collaboration between the public sector and the government. Government is an enabler. Because in the green economy, within the present dispensation, it is the governments that provide the framework
enabling framework to how to drive. Then for the private sector to come in. The investment we're talking about here is the impact investment. Impact investment that takes care of environmental, social, and governance issue, ECG. And you cannot be talking about it without talking about impact investment without ECG. Let me give you an instance. 1 megawatt of solar you employ, 1 megawatt of solar you deploy. There are over 3,000 jobs in the value chain. Solar. There are 3,000 jobs in the value chain in terms of designing, in terms of credit writing, climate financing, in terms of managing, operational management, just name it, in the value chain. Artisans, solar rooftop, and all that. So the value chain is huge. That's the social component of it. They have empowered the people. The one good thing about green economy does is that those three things, the build livelihoods, improve the quality of life, and alleviate poverty. Oil and gas is good, but I can tell you, since 1956, oil was discovered in 1956 at Oloibri, and in present, in terms of entrance and exit, we have not gotten 50,000 people in the value chain. Employment creation. I'm talking about IOC, NNPC, indigenous companies, markets. So the green economy is destination. You have built livelihoods. And that is why I must tell you, as I want to leave now, to the private sector, the institution, the private sector, the government, the academia, the research institute. This is your challenge. You have to create an innovation hub. I recommend a Lancaster model. As a researcher, I look forward to an industrial relationship under Lancaster, University of Lancaster. If you have a research, they link it up with an industry. So in other words, by the time the is, there's industry that take that value addition. That's the research model. That's what university institutions now, private institutions, public institutions. I want to challenge you to take that model. You don't just put your research in the cupboard. You need to socialize knowledge. Socialize your research. So I challenge you. So as a critical stakeholder in this green economy thinking, we need to socialize your knowledge, put it in the marketplace, so to speak. And of course, the civil society, you need to name and shame. This is the time you identify a company that is into greenwashing. In the green economy, there's nothing like greenwashing, okay? Greenwashing, so civil society, name and shame any company that's not doing something, name even banks that are not bringing their environmental and sustainability plan. And of course, the media and the development partners, we need to go ahead, we need to collaborate into ensuring that Nigeria's energy transition becomes fruitful and result-oriented. My final works, I leave you with these sound bites, and that's taken from 5 P's of SDGs. People, prosperity, planet, partnership, and peace. My soundbite goes like this. We empower the people, there will be prosperity in the land. Once there is prosperity in the land, the propensity to preserve the planet is assured under a global partnership driven by peaceful coexistence. Thank you so much.